What's going on, guys? Welcome in. Consumer app training for Q2, the Woodlands Magnolia Market Center. Welcome here. We'll get started here in about 5 more minutes. Ross, I'm going to promote you to panelist here in just a second as well, so you're not going to talk live. So watch for that coming here momentarily. So we'll get started about 5 more minutes, guys. 5 minutes. All right, guys, welcome in. So 2 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the Q2 South Texas training for the Woodlands Magnolia Market Center. And this is about the KW consumer app. So let's go through a little bit of housekeeping and answer a few questions, and we will go ahead and get started. So first things first, this is a Zoom webinar style. If you've not been on a Zoom webinar before, you are muted and your cameras are off. So you can see you don't have the whole Brady Bunch view. You really just have, you should just have Ross and I on your screen. and even Ross's camera is turned off by default as well. So just a heads up, you are automatically muted. If you do want to talk, there's a couple of buttons down here at the bottom of your screen. If you look at the bottom, one of those is raise hand. So if you raise your hand, I can unmute you. We can have a conversation if you would like to. Otherwise, you also have a second button down here at the bottom that says chat. If you'll click on that, it pops up a window where you can type in things into the chat, similar to what you could do with a Zoom meeting type event. So just a heads up there, we are recording this as well. So this event is being recorded. I'll send this link out to your leadership teams so that they can then get that out to everybody as well. So if for any reason you do need to leave early, feel free to. You definitely have that ability. You know, not ideal, but I understand we all have lives. So you can definitely leave early. We'll get the rest of the recording out to you guys as well. Janice, I've got you unmuted. You have your hand up. Go ahead. What's your question? I think you are muted on your side.
Okay. Is there a way for me to get a list of the people from my market center that are attending this training?
Unfortunately not. They're not that I know of, at least. I can check after the event and let you know, but right now I don't believe that there is a way to create a list of attendees. Outside of now that you're a panelist, you can look, I believe, can you see the attendees now that you're a panelist?
I cannot.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way, but we'll look into it after the event.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so what kind of app, Janice, I can lead you on here. Ross, you can unmute yourself as well. Or if you guys want to throw your answer in the chat, feel free to. What kind of app are we talking about today?
Consumer.
Consumer app.
Consumer. Janice and Ross, you both have it correct. Yes, we are talking about the consumer app. It's a very basic question with a very basic answer, guys. And yet, I want to make sure that we highlight that because I have had comments and questions previously about this app from agents thinking with their agent hat on, thinking, I wish the app could do this, I wish the app would do that. And again, remember that this is a KW consumer app. It was built for the consumer, not necessarily for the agent. So during this class, we're actually going to spend the first 2/3 of it putting our consumer hat on. We're literally going to take our agent hat off. We're going to think about the app as a consumer. We're going to walk through it as the consumer would. Several reasons there. One, I want you to know the app as well as your consumer does, because I want you to be able to highlight the features of the app. Second, the reality is, guys, your consumers have an app on their phone right now that has to do with real estate. I can almost guarantee you it. And it is most likely not your KW Realty app. So how are you going to transition them from using that app to your app if you don't know the selling points, if you will, of our app? And so that's why we're going to spend about an hour talking about what our app does, its abilities, its unique functionality, its features, so that when you have the time to have that conversation and someone says, I'm good, I got an app, you can say, okay, great, let's talk about your app versus my app, and I would love to kind of highlight some of the features. Just give me some feedback, spend 10 minutes with it, let me show you some things it can do, and then you can decide whether you want to use it or not, right? But you can't have that conversation unless you know the app as a consumer does. So I didn't introduce myself when I started. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Marty Miller. I'm your regional technology trainer for the South Texas region. I've been with KW going on 7 years. I have worked as an independent agent. I worked for a mega team for about 4 years. I did the role of buyer's agent, listing agent, VP of sales, VP of expansion, and ultimately president of that company. Most recently, I have served for 14 months as a productivity coach for the Platinum Market Center up your way there in Cyprus. And now, as of the first of the year, like I said, serving as your RTT. So I do live here in Katy, happily married. We have twin 5-year-old daughters, and daughter number 3 is on the way. Little Lily May will be here August 19th, so pretty excited there. But that's a little bit about me. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my phone with you guys, and we are going to dive in. So homework item number 1, or do this live with us together if you have not already, I want you to make sure that you have downloaded the KW Consumer app. You're going to see the consumer app, and it's going to look like this. Top left-hand corner, white background, red KW lettering. That is the new KW Consumer app. So we're going to go ahead and open it up. If this is your first time using the app, it will request that you create an account. Guys, the consumer app does not know, nor does it care that you are a KW agent. Remember, it is a consumer app. So if it's your first time downloading it, you do have to create an account, okay? You cannot click on login and use your KW credentials because the consumer app doesn't know your Keller Williams credentials. You're gonna create an account. They can be the same credentials, but you need to create that account with your name, username, password, etc., email, to make sure that your new account has been created. Once you create the account, or if you have already, the easiest way to find out if this app that you are using is a branded version of the app, meaning that it has been tied to an agent, is to click the More button on the bottom right-hand corner. So we're going to click on More. If at the top of your screen you see that gray bar with somebody's headshot, name, and license number, you are using a branded app and it is branded to that agent. If for any reason you get into your KW app, you click on the More button, and you get a screen that looks like this, then you are using a non-branded version of the app, meaning that it has not been tied to an agent. Now, again, you're acting as a consumer right now, but my assumption is that you would want to have your consumer app tied to you as the agent. So in order to do so, you would click on Find an Agent. Now, as a consumer, let's just say you didn't actually know any agents there in the Woodlands. You could do a search for the Woodlands, Texas, and you're going to see a list of all of the agents who are working in that area. You can start scrolling through and you'll see all of their names and their information, and you can kind of check out, okay, well, who is available that might work with me or that I could choose to make a connection with, and then actually start, tying into my app. Now, let's just say we stopped right here. On this screen are a series of amazing agents. There are 6 amazing agents listed on the screen. But let me ask you, feel free to answer in the chat, who, if you were a consumer that didn't know anything about Keller Williams or anything about any of these 6 agents, who would you most likely choose, at least initially, to find out more about and possibly work with? Of these 6, who are you most likely going to choose?
Helen.
Right? So Kathy said it, Jenny said it. Kellen, why?
Because he has his picture.
He's a good looking dude. He's got his picture on there, right? Exactly. All of you are great looking people, by the way, just so you know. And the consumer has no way of knowing that if you haven't uploaded your headshot. So homework item number 2 is to go into your command platform, click on settings. Then on the left-hand side, you're going to see command settings and connect settings. You want to click on connect settings and fill out your marketing profile. That's going to include your headshot, if you have a team, your team logo, your bio, email, phone number, etc. If you don't know what your bio or your actual profile on the app looks like, you can actually search for yourself. So search for your name, and then you're going to choose yourself as the agent. So you can see this is my profile. I've got my headshot loaded. I've got my team name, my team logo, my address for my market center, my website, specialties, designations, email, phone numbers, and my full bio. So if you have not gone into both command and also go to kwconnect.com, there's a few items that get pulled in as well, guys, from kwconnect.com. You want to make sure that your marketing profile there has been completely filled out. Right? If you have not branded this app to yourself as the agent, or if you're working with a consumer that hasn't, you would want to make sure that they clicked on Get in Touch. And then from there, they can claim you as their agent by clicking on Confirm. Once they do that, you'll get a confirmation screen that says, yep, Marty's now your agent. He's going to help you buy or sell. You can contact them anytime. I can tap anywhere on this screen to dismiss, and I come back to my search screen. As my recommendation is trust but verify. Trust and verify, I guess I should say. If you ask the consumer to download your app and you send them a link, there is a possibility that they're going to go straight to the App Store and download it without following your link. There's also a possibility that there's a glitch in the matrix and the link didn't actually brand to you. If I were working with a consumer and I wanted to make sure they had my app, I would either A, send them this screenshot and say, please make sure your app looks like this, or B, just ask them, hey, do you see my headshot when you click on more? If so, you know they're working with a branded version. If they're not, you're not going to get the insights from what they are doing in your command, which we'll look at the end of the class, and they won't get the full consumer experience because there's several items that happen within this consumer experience that will only show up for the consumer if they are branded to an agent. Okay, so let's dive into search functionality. Ross or Janice, recent vacations, future vacations, last 12 months, where'd you go?
Maui.
Where? Oh, it's gotta be in
Maui.
the US. Come on now, that's no fire. US or Canada? I should have prefaced that. US or Canada?
Maui.
South Carolina.
Oh, Maui's still in the US. I apologize. South Carolina. Okay, let's do both of those. Where'd you go in Maui? What'd you do in Maui?
I went to my nephew's wedding.
Okay, do you know where it was held? Did you go to a restaurant anywhere in particular that you went in Maui that stands out?
The Royal Lahaina Resort.
Let's see. Royal Lahaina Resorts. Been to Maui. I believe that's how we're going to spell that. Let's do a search. That looked like where the Royal Lahaina Resort is located, right there off the coast.
Yes.
Awesome. Did I put in the city, state, or address of the Royal Lahaina Resort?
No.
Interesting. Ross, where'd you go in South Carolina?
Sorry, I forgot. It was Virginia, Mechanicsville.
Okay. What'd you do in Mechanicsville? Anything fun? Particular restaurant, particular location, anywhere in Mechanicsville specifically?
Visiting family. Location.
What's that racetrack you always go to in the Austin area, Ross?
Circuit of the Americas.
Circuit of the Americas, right?
Yep.
You know the address? Sorry. Right. Circuit of the Americas. Is that the racetrack, Circuit of the Americas?
Yes.
Did I put in the address, Ross?
Um,
When I searched for this, did I put in the address?
yes.
I did? What's the address? Right? I didn't prepare Ross for this. You can tell. I didn't put in an address. I didn't put in a city. I didn't put in a state. I literally just searched for the Circuit of the Americas, and it zoomed my map directly in where Circuit of the Americas was. Let me ask you this. Anyone ever been to Disneyland and wanted to know what properties look like around Disneyland? Oh, that's cool. I just put in Disneyland, and now I can see all the houses for sale around Disneyland. Maybe I don't like California, and I don't blame you. Let's go to Florida and look at Disney World. Sweet. Let me see all the houses that are for sale around Disney World. Anyone ever interested in getting into politics? Maybe we should check out houses for sale around the White House. Well, who wouldn't love to see a view of the Statue of Liberty from their second floor balcony of their townhome or condo? Cool, there's Statue of Liberty, and there's houses for sale near Statue of Liberty. Did I once put in a city, a state, or an address?
No.
Not once, right? So one function that our app has that the majority of those other apps that you guys, consumers, are using, right? This isn't to blame them, it's the only ones they have available. Now we're changing that game. Is the fact that in the Keller Williams consumer app, I can search in that search bar for anything. It's tied to Google, and Google is going to use the search terms that I put in to give me the most likely address associated with that search term, and then zoom in on where that is located, right? So the wife and I, we went to Yosemite National Park. It's actually what we did our honeymoon. That's how you know you've married a good woman, when she'll spend 6 days in the wilderness with you, right? So Yosemite National Park. If I wanted to buy a house nearby just to kind of relive the honeymoon, I could zoom all the way out, because that's a big old park, and see here's homes for sale around Yosemite. Didn't put in the address, didn't even put in the city or the state. So again, just one more example of a reason why your consumers should be using our app, because they don't need to know the address, the neighborhood, the city, or the state. They can just put in the search term and have a pretty good chance that Google is going to direct them where they need to be in order to search for property around whatever that search term was. My ask of you is go do this in any one of those other apps. Type in any one of the search terms we have just searched for in any one of those other apps and see if it zooms in on that location. I can almost guarantee you that it won't, right? So we use landmark or search term searches available in the consumer app. Ross, popular neighborhoods there in the Woodlands, or Janice, popular neighborhoods in the Woodlands. Give me a well-known neighborhood.
Alden Bridge.
Alden Bridge.
Bridge, B-R-I-D-G.
With a B, right?
Yes, Alden Bridge.
Is that the Alden Bridge neighborhood?
Area.
Did I put in the city or the state?
No, and that's not even just a neighborhood, it's an area, village in the
Area,
Woodlands.
right? So I can see Alden Bridge Woodlands up there at the top. I can see Alden Trace, Spring Hill, Green Gable, Taylor Point. There's Alden Bridge Holly Laurel. Right, and all I did was search for the name of that neighborhood or that area, right? There's the Del Webb. So you can see that we can also search by actual neighborhood names. What's the independent school district up there?
Conroe.
Ever wanted to know the boundaries? There you go, Conroe Independent School District. You can now see the boundaries of the school district. What's south? Is that Harris County or
Yes.
Houston?
Yeah.
There's Houston Independent School District, right? If I was like, well, they want to live a little bit further over, Cy-Fake, I bet some people think it's really called that. Cy-Fair Independent. I think there's a dash in there. So you can see that you have the ability to search by neighborhoods, by school districts, by locations. Attempt to do any of these searches in any of those other apps. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to have varying results at best, right? Ross, give me another neighborhood, or Janice, give me another neighborhood.
Bender's Landing.
Bender, I'm familiar with that one. Bender's Landing. All right, so we're going to zoom in and we can see, all right, we've got Legends Run. Here's Bender's Landing right there, right? Pretty big old neighborhood, Bender's Landing. So on the app, if I'm searching this far out, I'm going to see properties for sale on my screen. As I start to zoom in, I'm going to start getting these blue shaded boundaries or outlines. Guys, that's based upon our connection to Nextdoor. Okay, Nextdoor is a consumer-driven site where people can submit their boundaries of their neighborhoods, and then Nextdoor confirms it with several different neighbors, and then eventually that becomes a neighborhood on Nextdoor. Each one of these blue lines and shaded areas represents one of the neighborhoods that Nextdoor has associated with this location. If I start to zoom in, you can see eventually I'm going to get these little white boxes to show up with the names of those neighborhoods. I can click on any one of those white boxes and, for example, see Bender's Landing and start to get information about the neighborhood. How often do you have clients that say, I don't know anything about the Woodlands, but I've heard Bender's Landing is a nice neighborhood. I don't know anything about the neighborhood, but I just hear it's nice. They can actually search for and then drill into that specific neighborhood and start to get a basic market snapshot. They can get what locals say. This is driven by a company called Spatial.ai. It's driven by a number of different criteria and factors. One of the most prevalent one is typically your shopping patterns. Anytime you're shopping with a loyalty card, a debit card, a credit card, they're tracking it back to your address, right? All of that data is out there. This company is then putting that data together, and you can then see kind of based upon that and other trends, what's happening in the neighborhood. Commute times, we're going to dive into that even further when we start looking at specific listings, teaser alert. Nearby schools for this neighborhood. How often have you heard, don't be the source of the information, be the source of the information? How many times have you sent people to greatschools.org or some other site that provides scoring or student-teacher ratios? Here's the great thing. If your consumer is using our app and they're looking at a specific neighborhood or listing, they're going to get the names of these schools that are nearby. If there's any private schools, those will pop up as well. And they'll actually get the state scores and student-teacher ratios powered by Pitney Bowes. Okay, so just one more quote-unquote selling point that you can use if people say, well, how good are the schools there in Bender's Landing? Well, the junior high is 91%. I would think that's pretty good. But my consumer might be coming from an area where their junior high was 100% or 99 or 98. And they're like, well, I guess 91 will have to do, right? So we don't make the opinion. We just say, go to my app and you can see all the information about the local schools. If there are any places nearby, local restaurants, shopping centers, nightlife, cafes, gyms, we also have a relationship with Yelp, which would pull information in from there. It looks like Bender's Landing is kind of sandwiched between several other neighborhoods that are all residential, not a lot of commercial right outside the neighborhood or inside the neighborhood there. But then I can also see homes that are listed for sale within the actual neighborhood and or lots that are for sale within the neighborhood, just by swiping left, all underneath the actual neighborhood. Here's the cool thing, I can even share this neighborhood data. Hey, right, how often do you work with someone and it's one partner is doing all the driving, right? So it could be, hey honey, check out this new neighborhood I found that's in the Woodlands called Bender's Landing. And I can send this specific neighborhood page to somebody that I'm working with on the buying or selling process. We're gonna go ahead and minimize the neighborhood and get zoomed in. I can now see the variety of properties that are listed for sale. Let's just choose that 877 one. Actually, before I do that, I have now searched by school district, by landmark, by neighborhood, as we do have the ability to do just a good old-fashioned home search, right? So 3 daughters, I gotta have at least 4 bedrooms. I want a single family home because we have 2 dogs. Let me click on more real quick. I'm gonna go in and say some additional features here under the filters. I can actually look for properties for lease as well. If I click on this listing type where it says for sale, you can see I get a status box, and then right under that status, I can now toggle on for rent or for sale. I can scroll through some additional filters. So obviously 3 daughters means at least 3 bathrooms. Don't want them all sharing one. Living area, we're in 2,200 square foot right now. It's made the quarantine real interesting. I'd love it to be at least 3,000. And yet who wants to clean a 10,000 square foot house? Well, let's just say 3,000 to 4,000, fat fingers, there we go. And guys, I'm just taking these dots and I'm sliding them left and right. Let's just click on done now, see how many houses match our criteria. All right, well, we get a good number of them. And yet there's some variation there with regards to price, right? So let's just say I wanted to say between 350 and 500. So I'm clicking on each one of these dots and I'm sliding them inwards. Now I can click on done and I can now see on the map 5 properties that are for sale that match the criteria that I just put in. However, I might be particular. I might say, hey, I want to live south of Rayford though. Mama lives nearby and I just want to make sure that I'm only looking at properties south of Rayford, still there in Bender's Landing. I could click on draw. And then you see I have the ability to actually come in and trace the area that I want to look at homes in. And boom, immediately it's only going to show me homes that are in that shaded area. And the consumer can do that on any level. We can do it zoomed way out, and I could do it, draw an area here. All right, I could say, I don't know, I just want to be in this area, and it would only show me properties there. Or, like I said, we can zoom in and say, all right, I just want to be in this area. I think I'm outside of Bender's Landing now. Yep, I'm down in Harmony. But I could still say, okay, I want to be in Harmony, but I want to be south of Rayford, or that might be east, I don't know. But you can see there's the areas that I want to live in. Next, I just spent, what was that, 5-6 minutes creating that filter, that saved search, or that search, excuse me. I want to save it for future use. I don't want to have to put in all that same criteria and draw that line every single time that I do this. So I can click on the saved flag in the top right-hand corner and actually name this search. Once I click on save, I'll get an icon that says, yep, you've saved this search. And now, if I were doing anything else, I'd come in, maybe my filters got erased because I logged out of the app for a day or two. I come back in and right, it defaults to where I am. And here now, this is what I'm looking at. I'm like, this isn't I want to be back in that Harmony area. How do I get, oh man, now I got to redraw it, put all my filters in again. Nope. Click on the heart button at the very bottom where it says saved. And you can see in the bottom half, I've got recent saved searches. I can just click on Harmony Woodlands. It takes me right back to that same exact spot that I was in. Now I can start to look at properties. So let's look at the 4 listings that are shown here. Let's just say I start with this 350. I'm like, all right, 4, 3.5, 3,400. I can click on the main photo and start dragging upwards, and I can maximize the listing that way. You can see there are 35 photos of this listing, and I can swipe left and start to look at the photos at the top. I can actually also click on any one of the photos, and I get what's known as the gallery view, where I can then see multiple photos at once. Finally, if I wanted to check out any one particular photo a little bit closer, I could say, well, let me look at this one a little bit better. I'm going to click there. Now I can zoom in. What's this patio thing all about? And you see how much gray space is at the top and bottom? Turn your phone sideways. It goes landmark, right, or landscape mode, and now takes up significantly more room on the screen. So I can then even zoom in even further, but it's nice that you can do that because this is actually new as of last Wednesday's update. So an important note, if you haven't updated your app, if you can't do what I just did, your app hasn't been updated, go update it. All right, so let's go back from the photos into the listing. You'll see that the price of the property is listed, $350,000. And we've got bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage. Yes, anonymous, this is being recorded. Underneath price, above address, you can see there is some white space there. If for any reason this property has had a recent price decrease, you would actually see a little green arrow and a dollar figure, and that would tell you what the recent price decrease was. Underneath the address, I've got 3 buttons. I've got save, hide, and share. If I want to save this property so that I can easily access it in the future, I can just click on the save button, and it will say, all right, do you want to save this to your favorites? By default, every consumer has a default collection that says first name's favorites. So Ross's favorites, right? Bria's favorites, Claudia's favorites, whoever it may be. In addition, I can create my own collections that are separate from my favorites. So in this case, it might be the Woodlands. Sorry, I know you guys get annoyed when we don't put that "the" on it. Just kidding. The Woodlands homes, and click on the button next to it, and then click on save. And now all of a sudden I have A, created a new collection, and B, saved a property to that collection. If we came out of the listing by clicking on the arrow just below the time there, drag it back down to get our toolbar at the bottom. Now I can click on save, the heart icon there at the very bottom of the screen, and see at the top, now I have collections created. And if I click on that, you can see the properties that are included in this collection. Right now there's only 1, but if I added additional, then I could have additional properties in each collection, right? So I can also add a note. I can say, this is the one, helps to spell right, this is the one with never fails, like when somebody's watching you type, you just don't do it right, with the nice pergola, close enough, and save it. Because the reality is a lot of your clients are creating these collections over time, and if I put this one in now, 2 weeks from now, I'm like, why the heck did I like this property? Oh yeah, that's the one that has the pergola in the backyard. Okay, cool. Now I remember that one. So they can actually create notes around each property in the collection. Let's go back to our search, and you can see there are 3 other properties there. Now I can look at this 420,000 one and say, ooh, that one looks nice. Look at that pool. Okay, let me check it out. I'll go through, look at the description. I'm going to swipe the photos. You know how this goes. And they're like, yep, this is a keeper. I'm going to click on save. And I want to save this one to my Woodlands homes as well, and click on save again. Now I've added a second property to my collection. Let's go back to the map. And let's just say I look at this third one, right? 425, and it's brand new construction. If I'm paying 425, it better have a pool, even though it has a 3-car garage. Yeah, I'm just not interested. So I can actually click now on hide. Click on the hide button within the listing. The eyeball goes bloodshot, you can see there. Now, if I click on the down arrow below time to go back to the map, you can see that one kind of grays out and goes real soft. You can barely see it. Let's click on the 409 one, and I can just say, all right, yep, I've looked through this one. This is not a winner, not a keeper. I'm gonna hide this one as well. How often do your consumers say, well, I'm using your app, but it's the same 6 properties every time I look at them, right? Because they may be using HAR or Zillow, and there's no way really to do these types of things on those apps. So now they know when they come in, here's the nice thing. When they come back to this search, they are only going to see the properties that they have favorited. Those properties that they hid will no longer show up. They're not even going to actually, right, like take up space on the actual map. If they hid them on accident, they can click on more and then scroll all the way down to the bottom. You can see show hidden listings. If I do that and then click on done, you can see now they are both there again, and I can click on each one of those listings and actually click on the hide button one more time. It will unhide that listing, right? So let's dive back into that 421, the one with the nice pool. I'm gonna scroll up, right? I'm just clicking on the photos and dragging this property up. Let's dive further into what information is included in the listing. Save, hide, share. You guys have all done share, not real new, but I can share this via text. I can airdrop it. I can send it via text, mail, Facebook, any of my conversation apps that I have on my phone. Just know that the person that you share it with is actually going to get just a link. They do not have to have the consumer app to receive that share. They are not prompted to download the consumer app either. They're actually taken to just a single listing landing page where they can view the listing on that actual landing page there. Underneath those 3 buttons, you can see we've got information on Keller Mortgage and Keller Covered. Great CYA, just in case you forgot to or didn't have time to have conversations about those 2 amazing programs. They are included there in your app. Next, you can see I've got the information, the public description being pulled from the MLS. So I can read more about this property as a consumer, get a little bit more information with regards to the actual property itself. Now, let me ask you this, guys. You can throw it in the chat. Ross, Janice, if you see it first, let me know. Who's the listing agent on this property? Who is the listing agent on this property?
It doesn't have one.
What are you talking about, Ross? Of course there's a listing agent.
Just says Remax Integrity.
That's the brokerage. There is a listing agent on this property. However, it is not listed on the KW consumer app. Why is that important? Guys, how often?
They'll call you.
That's it, exactly, right? Your consumers right now are using apps that include the listing agent's information, their name, phone number, and email. Guys, the real concern is some of our consumers are using apps with multiple listing agents, right? Like not listing agents, but multiple agents' information who have paid money to have their little face shown on that screen. And when your consumer clicks on ask a question, they think they're asking you a question. And what happens? Their phone blows up with 4 or 5 different realtors all calling them, none of whom are you. And A, they're either annoyed, or B, they just got stolen. Hey, but I'll do it for 2.5%, or hey, I'll give you a rebate, or hey, blah, 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 a bunch of garbage. This is not a selling point for your consumer, but it certainly should be a selling point for you. Why do you want your consumers using your app? Because any questions or tour requests come back to you, the KW agent who worked your rear off to get them to this point, because we know they started off as a lead. We weren't even sure if they existed. We worked really hard to turn them to a contact. Now they've become an actual opportunity. They are using my app to look for homes, and I certainly don't want to let go of all of that work so that the listing agent or some random premier agent can come in, swoop them away from me, right? So just one more reason. Some people are like, I don't really care what app they're on. Are you sure you don't care? Are you sure? Because if they're using that other app, they quickly and easily have access to the other agent's information. So just one more reason why I love our KW consumer app. The only information that they can get. Now, can they go to Zillow.com, HAR.com and find out the listings information? Sure, let's be transparent. And yet, if they're in the app, that means some additional step. It's friction, right? It's additional friction. And most consumers aren't going to take the time to go find out the listing agent if they have a question. They'll just click on Ask Your Agent, which will come back to you as the KW agent that got them on the app. Let's keep scrolling so you can see some additional information being pulled in from the MLS with regards to the home details. Next, I can get into the section about the neighborhood, right? So you can see this is similar to what we pulled up earlier when we were looking at Vendors Landing. I can get market stats as kind of a snapshot, or I can click on Explore and start getting more detailed information about Harmony in and of itself. If I don't know the neighborhood, but I like that house, it's a great way for me to get a better understanding of what neighborhood am I buying into. Why is that important? Guys, we know neighborhoods are just as important, if not more important than the actual house, because people don't just buy houses, they buy areas or neighborhoods or schools, etc. So we can keep scrolling down, get more information again from spatial.ai on what locals are saying. Walkability is driven by a company called LiveBy. So they check out a variety of different pieces of information, such as proximity to mass transportation, walking trails, biking trails, where are the proximity to things like grocery stores and places of worship and schools, etc., and then give a score. I have not seen a walkability score in Texas so far over 50%. I just don't think we're really built for that. So just a heads up as far as that goes. Throw it in the chat. What is the address to the market center? What's the address to the market center? Somebody help me out. Put it in the chat there, or Ross, Janice, if you want. Jimmy. Is it Janice or Janice? Because I say it both ways, and I know I'm saying it wrong 50% of the time.
It's Janice.
Janice. Thank you, Ross.
2201 Lake Woodlands Drive.
2201. Janice says Lake Woodlands Drive. Janice is buying this house. She wants to know, how far is it to the office? Janice, it's only an 18-minute drive. And now, this nut like me, you want to bike to work, well, that's only going to take you just shy of an hour, right? We all know Lee is biking back and forth from his house to work, right? Every day. I see him on that bike. If I really wanted to work out, I could walk or /run. It'd only take me a good 3 hours and 45 minutes. How often do your clients say, we want a house, but it has to be within X number of minutes from Y? Where that's Y is work, that's her parents, her mom's house, that's the kid's school, that's my favorite restaurant, my favorite shopping center. These are the things that your consumer can do. They can add in up to 3 locations. I think there's a restaurant out there called Perry's Steakhouse. Am I wrong? Maybe I wanted to find out, hey, how long will it take me to get to Perry's Steakhouse? If I buy this house, well, that's going to be a long walk home if I have one too many cucumber blue martinis, right? However, if I drive 24 minutes to get to the steakhouse, I could also come in here and just say, all right, what about Target? Because, you know, we're all addicted to shopping at Target. It starts to bring in a variety of addresses, and I didn't even put in the address. It's just showing me local Targets, right? What if it's Torchy's? I think you guys have one out there, don't you? Maybe not. We'll find out here in a second.
Yes, we do.
Torchy's
in the Woodlands.
Got a couple of them.
What's that?
We've got a couple of them.
Is it the West 19th? I don't think it's West 19th. It looks like y'all's is not. The Barker Cypress is still kind of Cypress.
How about Killen's Steakhouse?
All right, Killen's. There's another great location. So I could put in Killen's and steak. Is that the South of Voss? It's not STK. It's actually the steakhouse out there, right? Yeah, Research Forest. There it is. And you could tell me it's 19 minutes there. Guys, I actually worked with clients before where it was the husband and the wife, and then the wife's mom lived with them. And the wife told me, point blank, she said, hey, we have to buy a house, but my mom doesn't drive. She's too old to drive anymore. She has to be within walking distance of a grocery store and a Catholic church. Can you help us find a property like that? And I'm like, how am I going to use HAR's search filters to say I need to be within X number of minutes of a walk from a Catholic church and a grocery store. But here's a great example where they could say, well, okay, let me see what I can do. Are there any neighborhoods you're particularly interested in? And they could say, yeah, the Woodlands is actually a neighborhood we're interested in. I could go do the research for Catholic churches in the Woodlands and then grocery stores in the Woodlands. And I can say, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put in this church address and this HEB address, whatever it is out there. And then anytime you look at a listing, you'll know how far of a drive, bike, or walk it is to the church and the grocery store. That's just one more example of how you can help the consumer use their app to get a better idea, right? Maybe it's, I bike back and forth from the gym. I don't. I have a Peloton. It doesn't go anywhere. But you understand, if I did, I could say, what gym do I want to be near? And then find out how far it would be to bike back and forth. So this does not exist in many of the apps that your consumers are using, and it helps them have a better understanding. Typically, I have seen we have to be between, I don't want to be any more than 45 minutes away from work. It's a rule of thumb as well, guys. We know Houston traffic, right? Depending on the day and what time, this is an average drive time. So use it with the rule of thumb, and yet it's going to give them at least a better idea than what they're using right now. I can almost guarantee you that. With regards to this specific listing, I can see the schools that it's zoned to, and then what the scores are for those schools. My guess is that Grand Oaks High School is probably no more than 2 years old. Is that correct? You guys know Grand Oaks?
That is correct.
So that's why those scores have not populated yet. So typically it takes about 3 years from what I have seen in doing my research for the school scores to start populating. But at least you can see the ones for the elementary and junior high that have been there for a while. I can also see if there's any upcoming open houses scheduled as a consumer on this property. There is a mortgage calculator included in the app. I would just say be careful. It doesn't include taxes. And we know obviously in the Houston area, taxes can vary pretty wildly. It can make a huge impact on their monthly payments. So use it with a grain of salt. Then obviously, because we've got mortgage information and insurance information, you've got 2 more links to Keller Mortgage and Covered. As of last Wednesday, you now have the ability to schedule tours. Pretty cool, right? So now your client can request a in-person or video tour from within the app. All they have to do is click on the schedule video tour button. It's going to say, when do you want to go see this property? Now here's also the nice thing. It has to be at least the next day. They can't request a showing from you at 2:45 or 5 o'clock, and then you're caught off guard because you didn't get the notification, you didn't see the alert, and then you miss it, right? So I cannot choose today to go see the house. You can see I can't choose Wednesday. It has to be tomorrow. So maybe tomorrow I'm working, I can only see it in the evening, and yet Friday I'm off, so I can see that anytime. And Saturday we've got the girls' ballet recital in the morning, so it's only afternoon and evening, and I'll click on Save It. Then I can scroll down and I can say, all right, do I want to see this in person? Right now, obviously, we're still having some showings with clients in person, so that's easily accessible by clicking on in person or scheduled and then schedule tour. Or I can say, hey, it's a live video. How nice would it be for your consumers to say, hey, we're just not comfortable. I've got a pregnant wife. We're not going very many places at all. If we're going anywhere, it's me with my mask and she's staying home. If we were looking to buy a home, how nice would it be for me to request a live video tour from you as my agent? And I could say, hey, I'd like to use Zoom, FaceTime, or Facebook Messenger if possible. And that's what my request to you is going to then say. I can click on Schedule Video Tour, and you can see, boom, there's the request that has been submitted. So I, as the consumer, have now sent you a request to go view this tour. And in this case, it was a video tour. Guys, here's the nice thing. As the agent, you're going to get an alert in Kelly, and you're going to get an alert in Command that somebody has requested this tour. So you need to make sure, 1, that Kelly's on your phone and that she's working, and 2, that you're checking in on Command. Look at that, right? Just as if her ears were burning, Kelly said, I know you're talking about me. Here's your notification. I didn't do anything, guys. I didn't touch my phone. That literally just came in from Kelly because I, as the consumer, requested a tour of me as my agent, and there's the request straight from Kelly saying, hey, you've had a request from Marty Miller. Now, I'll be honest with you, when you go into Kelly, and you click on that alert, it's only going to pull up my contact card. Okay, but at least it lets you know that there is a request. You're going to want to go into command to see A, the property, and B, the request details. I'll show you that when we get to the last third of the class, right? But at least I'm getting a notification that tells me, hey, somebody requested a tour. I need to go in and check in on that. As I continue to scroll down, I can see my activity for this home, right? How many times have I viewed it? Did I favorite it? How many times have I hidden it? I can also see additional homes that are for sale nearby. As I swipe left, I can see more information about each one of these properties. And then you've got legal description and just kind of a bunch of KWRI, legal mumbo jumbo. All of that information that we just ran through is included on every single listing. Here's the nice thing. See our 3 places? Uh-oh, better start charging my phone. Hang on. Those 3 places will show up on any listing that we look at. If I come back to the 421, I say, well, it's a little further away. What's my drive time? Oh no, let's click on a 351. What's my drive time on this one? I can come back and those places are saved. So I can say 18, 23, and 19 minutes now to get to those 3 locations that I put in. Okay, so all of that information is included in every time that I go through and actually make a search. Let me ask you a couple more things, right? We talked about Google and the integration that it has with the consumer app. How many times have you gone in or gone on a buyer showing or a listing appointment and you're like, dang it, I wish I knew it back to that. Or I wish I knew those were the neighbors, right? Not necessarily who they are, but what's next door. Well, it only happened to me one time and I started changing the way I did listing appointments from that point forward. I went on a listing appointment one time with a fully prepared CMA, marketing presentation, everything was ready to go. And I get there and they back, I kid you not, to a commercial car wash. Like you can hear the droning of the motors for the pumps from within inside the house. I go in the backyard and the fence, although it was a decent height, you could still see the tops of the bays of all the car washes. You could hear people having conversations, playing their music, and then of course just the sound of the water spraying everywhere. And I'm like, dude, this CMA is out the window. Like, why did I even prepare this? They're gonna lose 25 to 35 easy just because they backed to this car wash. I should have known that, and I didn't. And so from that point forward, I started using Google Earth, but I had to go onto my computer, download that as a program, search for the address. Here's the cool things, guys. You don't have to do that because our KW consumer app that you can use as a consumer or an agent has that integration. Let's click on more in the top right-hand corner. Click on more. And we looked at this listing filter a little bit earlier, but did you notice there were 2 tabs there? There's the listings tab. Now I want you to click on the map tab. When you click on the map tab, you'll see I've got default and satellite. Click on satellite and then click on done. Now all of a sudden, I get a much better idea of what's happening around these properties. I can start to zoom in, right? And I can say, okay, well, this is interesting. Somebody wants to buy this property right here. And yet, what is that, right? Are they right? They're going to be right across from what looks like it might be, I don't know, a school or a daycare. That might be interesting. I might want to have a conversation about that. How many times have you looked at a listing or had buyers say, well, we don't want to back to power lines. We don't want to back to a busy road. We don't want to back to a bayou or a retaining pond or whatever it may be. So you now have the ability, right? Let's say they want to go buy this house. Well, what are they back to, right? And why don't they have any grass, right? So all the different things that you can see by zooming in from the actual overhead view using Google Earth. So it's a pretty cool function that you can train your consumer to use, and you can also use it as well. Here's what I was looking for. You guys see those vertical lines? Those are power lines, right? Those are literally the power poles, and then you can see the lines if you look closely, right? Those little gray lines going across the top. Someone that says, hey, we'd like to back to have no rear neighbors in a green belt. Sure. You got no rear neighbors, you got a green belt, but you've also got power lines. Is that still a property you want to go see? I can see the power lines because do you see this vertical line in the middle of the map? And then I scroll over a little bit and I get another vertical line. and then another vertical line, and then another. These are the actual poles and or the shadows of the poles. So that's how you can tell. And you can kind of see, if you look closely, the lines going right through the middle of that grass, that's the actual power line. So you guys can zoom in on these properties that they're looking to see and not have to dive into Google Earth separately to kind of get an idea. And you can train your consumers to do this too. Hey, how did you know it back to power lines? Well, I went onto the consumer app just like you can, and I zoomed in on the satellite view versus the default view, and now you can see it. So in order to toggle that off, if you wanted to go back to seeing just the streets, bodies of waters, and neighborhood, I would click on map and go back to default, click on done, and then I'm back looking at the same way that I was originally. Last thing on search that's a pretty cool function. First of all, remember, if you haven't already figured this out, this is a KW consumer app that is nationwide and Canada, right? How often do you pull up HAR to look at properties in Dallas or San Antonio or Austin or, I don't know, Mechanicsville, Virginia, or wherever Ross was hanging out? So here's the cool thing, is that this app can be used anywhere in the nation or in Canada. How often do you see a for sale sign? Doesn't matter where you are. You see a for sale sign in the front yard, and what's the first thing you want to know? How much is it? And then the second thing is, what does it look like on the inside? We're all nosy, we're all curious, and your consumers are the exact same way. You see in that top right-hand corner, there's a little arrow that's cockeyed to the left. Click on it, see what happens. Boom, immediately, all of our maps just got taken somewhere. They all got taken to where we are standing, sitting at our desk, wherever we are right now, the map just zoomed in on. How often have you had a buyer call you and say, well, we saw a house, we were out driving around the neighborhood earlier, and man, I don't remember what street it was on. How do you remember the name of that neighborhood? No, I don't know the neighborhood name. Well, it has red bricks and green shutters. It's a 2-story with a 3-car garage. You know the one, right? Can you help us get information on that house? And you're like, how in the heck am I going to do like HAR, red brick, 3-car garage, green shutters? Like, you know, so here's what you can do is train your consumer. Anytime you're in front of any house that you're interested in, just go to the consumer app and click on the arrow, and boom, immediately you will see the properties that are listed for sale around you. You can click on those properties and get the address, send me the address, and I'm happy to do research for you. How often have you traveled for work? Go seeing family, right? Ross was just in Mechanicsville. If he wants to know what houses are for sale in Mechanicsville, he can do the same thing. He can pull up his app, click on the arrow, and boom, because it's a national app, he can see properties for sale around where he stands right then and there. Anytime you travel, right? Janice was in Maui. She wanted to look up property and see, hey, what would it cost to actually move here? And she can look up and see what properties are available for sale. Now, moving to Maui is a whole different experience. Obviously, we know that. And yet, it's a cool way to kind of talk to your consumers, because if HAR is the main app that they're using, it's all fine and well as long as you want to stay in Houston. But look for property outside of the Houston area on HAR, and you're going to get significantly less listings than you would if you're using your KW consumer app. We spent a lot of time talking about search in the bottom left-hand corner. That's our magnifying glass. Let's go to the other corner. We talked about some additional information, right? Patty, your timing couldn't be better. If you click on the More menu, right, bottom right-hand corner, let's click on More. There's a few things that we can do in here as a consumer. I can click on the history and see kind of my saved searches and properties that I've recently hidden, etc. I can click on My Account, second item down. And the third option there is Places. Remember how I was adding those places from within the listing? If they wanted to add them before they viewed any one listing, they could put them in here as well. And if I say, hey, I no longer like steak, I'm going to become a vegetarian, I can get rid of both of those steakhouses, and I can start adding, I don't know, Zoe's is always a popular vegetarian, right? And see Zoe's Kitchen and where's the closest one to me. So easy way to go through and add additional places from that menu. Next, I can come in and actually add a co-buyer. So if I'm the one half of the partnership, the relationship, right, husband, wife, partners, whatever they are, if they want to add someone else to the app and start seeing what the other person is doing, you can actually send an invite to another person from the co-buyer portion. Now, Patty's question was, how do I share the app from within the app? Well, I'm glad you asked. Button number 4, right? Share the KW app. Now, we got to be careful here because this is sharing consumer to consumer. So this is what we ideally would love for our consumers to do, would be sharing this with their friends, family, relatives, sphere, whatever. If we want to share it as an agent from within the app, we can still do that. However, you're going to want to change the verbiage because it looks just a little weird. I use the KW app to search for homes with my realtor, Marty Miller. Wait, you are Marty Miller. That doesn't make sense. So I could change it to something that says, hey, Patty. Oops, butchered that one pretty bad. Hey, Patty. There we go. Comma. Please use the KW app to search for homes with, and I would take out my realtor, Marty Miller, and I would just type in me, and then I could send that to Patty. And now I'm doing this as an agent, sending this to Patty as a consumer, but it's still going to send a link to Patty's phone that will allow her to then click on and go to the App Store, easily download the app. And because it's my link, right? If each one of you that just did this on your phone, you see a different listing there. It's kwri.app.link/something different for all of us. It's all caps, but KWTYRWV, that is my personal code for my app. If I sent this to one of your consumers, they would download a version that was linked to me, not to you. So each one of these is individual to the agent that is sending it out. That's how you share it from within the app. I'm going to show you three additional ways that you can share it from command in just a second when we transition there. Now we've talked about the saves button there pretty regularly. I've got my recent collections, and you can now see, because I added a second home to that collection, that I've got the second property there. I could just come in and say, right, pool, and that's all I need to know because that's such a cool looking pool, right? I can see my saved searches, which we did earlier. Next, we've got the feed moving in from the left-hand side. Now I can tell you the feed functionality is still being built out, although we're getting closer by the day. Ideally, what's going to be able to happen is that in Ross's contact record, Ross is in my database, he has my app, he has downloaded it from within his contact card. I could create saved searches and saved collections for Ross specifically, and those would show up in his saved. So it might be a search that I have created for Ross, and they'll show up there. So they're working on that functionality. We are very close. No timeline yet, and yet I know that it's very close. The last option there, so save searches, collections, guide, that is the one part that is starting to work. Anytime I update the guide in my consumer's opportunity, it'll show up here. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second when we get into command. So let's talk about the last icon that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the actual guide. Click on the guide icon in the middle at the very bottom there. You're going to see two tabs. This is a buying guide and a selling guide. And let me ask you a question. As you start to look through this, you can see the several steps involved with buying, the several steps involved with selling. If I sent you my app and you downloaded it, who would you assume wrote this app? Who would you assume wrote it? I sent it to you as an agent. You're my consumer. You're reading through it. Who do you assume wrote it?
You.
You dang Skippy, right? You think I wrote this, Janice.
I do. You're so good.
That's so good. Look at all this stuff, Janice. I don't even know what this says because I've never spent time in here. And now I'm setting expectations with you that I don't even realize. Janice, I don't even recommend some of this stuff because it's not what we do in Texas. So here's the reality, guys. You need to spend time in the guide. I know you're like, man, this guy gives us homework every time we meet with him. Yes, I do. And it's for your good, right? So go spend some time as the agent reading through these guides. I would recommend you have a sheet of paper right in front of you. You've got a pen and you're taking notes, right? Start with the buying guide and go through each one of the steps. Do I do all of this? If there's something that's included that you don't do or don't recommend, make a note. Is there something that you do that is not included in the step? Make a note. Would you take one of these steps and divvy it out into multiple steps? And if so, what would that look like? Take some notes. For example, I think our KWRI team, the marketing department is amazing. The consumer department, they're amazing. And yet, on the selling guide, they created some extremely detailed steps. You can see all of the detail that's included in each one of these steps, right? Pretty detailed. And yet, how many of your sellers are going to believe that it only takes 4 simple steps to get to closing, right? In an ideal world, but the reality is it takes a heck of a lot more than 4 steps to get to closing. So my recommendation is you actually look through these steps and you add, right? Or you divide. So for example, we've got review offers, but we don't even have negotiate repairs. I'm sure it's included in one of those too, but I would say that might be an additional step that you could add. We've got showing your home. What about before we even go to show your home? There might be several steps that happen: staging your home, preparing your home for photography and videography, preparing your home for the MLS. And in each one of those steps, you're talking to the consumer about what you're going to be doing during that step so that you're building out value. When you hire me, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Seller, here are the steps that we will walk together through. Because realize that this guide, this is a weapon in your arsenal. When you're sitting down for that buyer consultation or that listing appointment, guys, you are competing. Even if they tell you you're not, guaranteed they know at least 2 to 3 more realtors, if not more. And they're always judging you based upon, well, I mean, Susie might do a better job, or I don't know. They're always thinking about some other agent that they could call, right? So you want to make sure that you have given all efforts to win the actual right to work with them. And this is one of those efforts. Show them the app. Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Seller, when you work with me, you can see that real estate is a detailed process, and there are many steps in the buying or selling process. Let me show you briefly. When you work with me, you have access to my KW Consumer app. As a part of that app, I have a guide in here that shows you all of the steps that we're going to go through as we go to sell or purchase this next home. And here's the great part, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Seller. If you're ever concerned about what we've done, what are we doing, and what do we have left to do, you can come into this app and I will have checked off anything that we have done, so you will know the current step that we are on, what are we working on right now, and what do we have left to do. And so you have that ability as their agent to actually check off these steps in their app, so they always know where they are in the transaction. Guys, this is a huge selling point if you're competing, because the rest of those agents, they don't have an app that does this, and you do, right? So instead of them having to email or call or text the agent, forget all that. Just check your app and you'll see exactly where we are. Okay, so this is a really powerful portion of the app, and yet I would recommend that you spend time in here, and it may take some amount of time. It's not going to be just an instant, but go through and customize this to your process. And I'm going to show you how to do that next. So we have spent time talking about the consumer app as the consumer, how to search for properties, filter for properties, view overhead satellite map, all of those different types of things that you can do as the consumer. Search by school district, search by landmark, search by neighborhood, get additional information about the neighborhood and the property, commute times, what are locals saying, what are the nearby places, coordinating with Yelp, what are the nearby neighborhoods, coordinating with Nextdoor. Now we're going to take that consumer hat off and we're going to move into the actual agent side of things. Okay, so we're putting our agent hat on, and I'm going to transition you into Command, and we're going to start talking about what we can do in Command, what we can see in Command that links to the actual agent's to the consumer app and the agent's Command account. So we're going to dive into Command. Here is my Command dashboard. And you can see the first thing that we just talked about, we talked about guides. So let's go into Consumer. It's the second to last applet that you're going to see on the left-hand side of your screen. It's called Consumer. Yes, Claudia, it's being recorded. I'll send the YouTube link to your leadership team so they can send it out to you guys. So we're going to click on Consumer. And you're going to see there are 3 tabs at the top of the screen when we click on Consumer. The third one is the Guide Builder. You can see it here, Guide Builder. Right now, there's only 2 guides available for you and the consumer to utilize. However, in the future, just so you're aware, you will have the ability to create additional guides. So I could create a first-time home buyer guide that maybe has some more detailed information that someone that's been here, done this doesn't necessarily need. I could create a luxury listing guide or selling guide that may have some additional steps that I don't necessarily always do for every listing. What's it look like to buy a farm and ranch property? That might be a different guide. What's it look like to buy a foreclosure or an REO or something along those lines, right? So you will have the ability to create these additional guides and then assign them to your consumer based upon which guide you think the best fit would be. But for right now, there's just the buying, selling guide. And you can see that if you want to make edits to either one of these guides, you're going to click on the pencil located next to it. Guys, if you're in command and you want to make an edit, look for the pencil. If you're in command and you're looking at a pencil, know that it has something to do with an edit. So we talked about the seller's guide. So let's click on that pencil. And you can see here are the actual 5 steps included in the guide. These are the 5 steps automatically included. If I want to make changes to those steps that are already included, all I have to do is click on them. And you can see here's the picture included with this step, the card title, the card subtitle, and then if I scroll down, this workspace text, that's what shows up when I clicked on the actual guide step itself. So if I went back to my notes and I said, hey, I want to break this step up into several different steps, I want to remove this paragraph, I want to add that paragraph, whatever it was. I've had some people even come in just to make it easier. They've copied and pasted, right, all of this text into like a Word document, and then they printed the Word document, and then they just did the strike throughs and arrows and kind of made their edits on that. That's another option that you have. If you decide that you want to add steps after you're done editing the steps that are present, you would come in and click on Add a Step. You can see I can change the card title. I can put in a subtitle. And then I would have to click a photo, right? You got to go find a photo that you have actually on your hard drive, or go find one that you've downloaded. And it's important that you're using photos that are royalty-free, copyright-free, just so that you don't get any trouble when you're actually adding these to your app. I can click on Continue, and all of a sudden you can see I've created now a 6th step. By default, the step goes at the bottom. We're not going to stage after we close. So I can click on this tab on the left-hand side, and I can move it anywhere I choose to in that whole process. If that's going to be first, I would click there. Anytime I've made any changes or edits, I want to click on Save Changes, and now that guide has been updated across all of the consumers that I have in my world that are using my app. If I want to remove this step, I would just click on it, click on the trash can, and then Save Changes. You can also see this is where I would put the workspace details. I'm going to go ahead and do that just because I'm not prepared to write that all out right now. I talked to you earlier about the ability to walk the client through those guide steps. You're going to do that actually in the opportunity that you have created for them. So we're going to click on Opportunities. Obviously, you need to make sure that the contact has come into your database and that you have built out an opportunity for them in order to start walking them through the actual steps. So this is an example of an opportunity for a person that has my app. And you can see there are multiple tabs. So what I did is I just came into this test opportunity. Elena's one of my friends that's downloaded my app. She allows me just to kind of play with it so I can show you what it looks like, right? Guides and command are automatically added to the consumer app. Yes, the 2 there are automatically added. However, you would want to go in and make any changes, and then they would be automatically updated. Ross asked about URLs. Right now, there is not the ability to put a linkable URL. I could still put www.jimmyspressurewashing.com. They just wouldn't be able to actually click on it. So my recommendation is that you can still put the website, but I would also make sure you put the phone number or the business name or whatever, depending on what links you're looking to build in. With regards to walking them through the steps of their guide, that's done underneath the Seller Profile tab. So see Seller Profile here. If I click on that tab, I can see, yes, right, Elena is registered with my consumer platform. That means that she has downloaded my app or she's registered on my site. Typically, it's going to be downloaded my app. And then because she has, this portion guide shows up. If they haven't downloaded your app, you're not going to see this portion within the opportunity under the Seller Profile tab. However, because Elena has downloaded my app, I can now manage her guide by clicking on Manage Guide, And then you can see here are the 5 steps that are still in the actual selling guide. And I can say, yep, we're done with inspection and repair negotiations. I'm going to click on that, save changes, and then one more time, confirm those changes. And now Elena will see that we have moved from step 3 to step 4. Step 3 now has a check mark on her app, so she knows that we have finished that step. Okay, so that's how you're going to walk your client through. Now, if you're going to sell it to them at the appointment, make sure that you're doing this step, right? Because you don't want to sit down at closing and they'd be like, or you're like, hey, how did everything go? They're like, well, it was okay. Remember when we first met, you told me about this app. You were going to walk through all these steps. You were going to tell us all what, and you never did. Look, you haven't checked off a single thing, right? That would be embarrassing. That wouldn't be very good. So make sure that you are walking them through the guide steps so they can see those check marks. Now that we've talked a lot about the actual app, let's talk about how we're going to get it into the hands of our consumers. I told you already one way is you can actually share it from within the app. Just make sure you change that verbiage so it's not awkward. The second way is to actually manually share your link. So if you click on the consumer tab, again, we're going to go back to consumer, and you're going to see those 3 tabs at the top. It doesn't matter which one of these 3 tabs you're in, you're going to have a site and app settings button. Let's click on site and app settings, and then you'll see URLs. I want you to click on the URL tab, and you're going to see this is my app URL, my specific, this is mine. Yours is going to be something different. It's going to say app.kw.com/something in all caps, but yours is individual to each of you as an agent. So I can actually copy this link, and I could send it out manually, whether it was an email, on Facebook, messaging somebody, whatever it is, I could send this link manually to anyone. When they receive that link and click on it, they're basically just taken to a page that looks like this. Obviously, it's branded to me because this is my link. If they are looking at this page on their tablet or their phone, they can actually click on one of these 2 buttons and download the app immediately from their phone or their tablet. If they're looking at it from the desktop or laptop, then they can actually put their cell phone number in, and then they'll get a text to their cell phone that will actually then allow them to download the app. That's sharing your actual link. So manually sharing your link. The third option is to actually go through smart plans. So you'll see the 4th applet down here, the diploma looking one, that's smart plans. There's actually a smart plan that KWRI Labs has created around your app, right? Your app. So it's called Promote My App. If you don't see Promote My App in your list of smart plans, that's okay. You probably just haven't brought it over from the library. So if you click on library at the top, you will see here are the 10 smart plans that KWRI or Labs has created. And then all they have to do is click on view steps. All you have to do, excuse me, is click on view steps, and you can see what this particular smart plan does. So when I put somebody on this smart plan, it automatically fires an email. Guys, it's going to look a lot like this with regards to that email. It'll have information about the app. It'll most likely have the video. It's going to have the key features. Then it's going to wait 1 day, and it's either going to fire a task for a text or the text itself. The differentiation is whether or not you have Twilio set up in your command account. If you have gone into your settings menu and connected Twilio, then this text will automatically be fired on your behalf. If you have not, you'll actually receive a task that says, hey, go fire that text to this person. Now be careful, if you go in and put 400 people on this smart plan and you don't have Twilio connected, guess what happens tomorrow? You have 400 tasks that then say, go fire this text. That's going to be a whole lot of tasks following up your task manager. So my recommendation has always been, guys, get into Twilio. It's not free, and it is super cheap. Each one of those texts that you're sending out, as long as they're less than 160 characters, they're costing you 0.0075, meaning less than a penny each. Now that's outgoing and incoming, right? And yet I could literally send, what is that, 1,000 texts for $7.50. So when you create the account in settings, they are going to ask for a credit card number. They will bill you $20 to start your account. Then as you're sending text and receiving text, once it gets down to below $10, it's going to then rebill you back up to 20. It's just like the toll tag, right? We're all familiar with that setup. So I highly recommend Twilio as an app to be integrated in your command platform. Do know that you're going to start off by purchasing, right, when you register for the account, a 512 area code phone number. You can go to the actual Twilio support and get a local area code. That's going to cost you an extra $1 per month, but at least then it's a local area code. I was real big on making sure that all of my consumers knew, hey, I have purchased some additional tech for my real estate-based business. It includes a business text service. So anytime that I'm looking to text you and keep this text secure and private, meaning it's not being mixed in with my personal texts, I'll be using my Twilio text number. You can respond via text to that number and it will track our conversations in my CRM. And also, if you ever need to get a hold of me, please call me at my personal cell phone number, and here that is. That way they kind of understood what it was about. This smart plan, after firing that first text, is going to wait 3 more days and fire a second text. If you've not already, I'd recommend that you add this smart plan to your smart plans. And then here's the other cool thing. This is an editable smart plan, meaning that you can see the pencil is actually lit up. Some of them are grayed out, meaning you can't edit them, and some of them are not. So I can click on edit. My recommendation is anytime a Twilio text is included in the smart plan that you actually identify yourself. So you can see I've come in and said, hey, it's Marty with KW. I've also personalized each one of these texts. So if Janice and Allison and Amar and Andy and Beatrice were all going to receive a text from me on this smart plan, it would say, hey, Bria, Beatrice, Andy, Amar, Allison, Janice, right? So it would have your contact first name. So it looks like I'm actually sitting at my phone sending this text out to you. That contact first name is called a merge field. And you can see it by clicking on this F. These are all the merge fields that I can bring into one of these text messages. So all I did was I wrote out, hey, then I clicked on the F and I used contact first name, comma, it's Marty with KW. That way it looks like I'm sending that text to all of these people, right? And it's personalized. So that's my recommendation for you as well. Anytime you make a change to a smart plan, you just want to click on save, which will then save those changes. You can add people to this smart plan 3 different ways. You can add them from within the smart plan applet. If I click on the little person with a plus sign next to this smart plan, I can add people directly by their name. I can check them off by just clicking on check right next to their name, or I can actually search for tags. So for example, if I wanted all of my buyers to be on my app, I would come in for the buyer tag, and you would see by choosing that tag, I've now got 17 contacts that I can select all. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 13 more, and then click on add to smart plan. I can decide, do I want them all to be added right now? Do I want to add them all at a future date? Or do I want to add them periodically over the next several days? And if so, how many per day would I like to add? That's your third option there. So I can add them from within the smart plans applet. I can actually come into the contacts applet and choose their individual contact record. So let's say I just added somebody and I want to add them to that smart plan. I would click on their contact record, click on smart plans, add to smart plan, and then choose promote my app. And I can decide whether I want to put Aaron Perlberg on this app right now or at some point in the future. Finally, I can do the same thing that I did there in the first step from within my contacts home screen by deciding who do I want on the screen. So I would filter for system tag buyer, apply. Now you can see I have those same 17 contacts showing up. If I click on this check mark in the top left-hand corner, I'm selecting 17 people at once, and then I'm going to perform a bulk action, add to smart plan, and choose the promote my app smart plan. I get those same choices that I did the first time around. So that's the third way to add someone to the smart plan. It's also the third way to share your app. We talked about from within the app, manually using our link. Now smart plans, the fourth way is using your social media. Okay, so I'm going to click on campaigns, which is one of our applets here within command. And as long as I've come into settings and connected my Facebook account and my Twitter account. Now, point of reference, guys, these posts that we're about to schedule, when we're using the post scheduler within Command, they are being scheduled to go on our business page. There is no way to schedule a post to go on your personal profile. So you do have to make sure that you have a business page created from within your personal profile. To do that, you go onto your Facebook account, you go into add a page, you create a business page, right? So when I connect that page and my Twitter account, so Facebook post scheduling is connected, Twitter post scheduling is connected, I then have the ability from within campaigns to choose social posts. Now, some of you are already thinking, man, I am not good at this stuff. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, what to post. Guys, I get it. I was the same way. That's okay. Scroll down on the right-hand side. Remember that amazing marketing team at KWRI that I love? This is just one more reason. Right-hand side underneath social posts. Here are 2 posts that are already created for you to utilize. And you can see it's a professionally designed marketing photo with a description. And I can just click on this arrow and it's going to say, all right, here's what we recommend you say. If you don't like what this says, click on shuffle. Well, then we recommend you might want to say this. No, I don't like that either. Well, then you could probably say this. Well, no. Or you could say this, or you could type whatever you want here and then use that as your actual text. Okay, so you can modify any one of those. Then you'll see here's the photo already loaded. My DBA is already loaded, and I have the ability to schedule this post for the future or publish it immediately. And then I can decide where do I want it to go, Facebook, Twitter, or both. When I choose to schedule the post, I get the calendar view. Then I can say, yeah, I want that to go out, let's say Monday, June 8th. The only reason I'm going so far in advance is that I've taught this class multiple times, and I have posts scheduled Monday, Wednesday, Friday for those 3 weeks because I've taught it so many times. So I'm going to go out to June 8th. I like to post everything at 9 a.m. I'm going to click on schedule post. It's going to say, this is what it looks like on Facebook. This is what it will look like on Twitter. And I can click on schedule post. Now I have a post going out that week of June 8th on that Monday, that quick and easy on my Facebook and Twitter account. You can see it actually opens that week and shows me that on Monday, you've got a post scheduled to go out on Facebook and Twitter. Well, guys, check this one out. This is not an actual marketing photo. It's a marketing video. I can click on play and play the first 10 seconds there for you. Right, professionally created, professional soundtrack. It's got it all in there, ready to roll. And all you have to do is click on the arrow. It says, this is what we recommend you say. Don't like that? Click on shuffle. Here we go. Let's say this instead. The video is already uploaded, so you don't have to worry about the size, the formatting, the aspect ratio, any of that stuff. KWRI has already done it and said, look, here you go, ready to roll. I want to say, schedule this. I scheduled this one for Monday the 8th. Let's go out and schedule the video. I'm sorry, June 8th. Let's do Wednesday the 10th. Again, I like my stuff to go out at 9 a.m. Twitter and Facebook, schedule post, preview Facebook, preview Twitter, both look good, schedule the post. Now I have a second post for that same week going out. Monday, talking about my app. Wednesday, video about my app. Oh man, that stinks. There's only 2 of them. Hit shuffle. 2 more new ones. 2 more new ones. Holy smokes, you mean there's a ton of them in here and all I have to do is just keep clicking on shuffle and I'll get a variety of different posts that I can put on my page? Yes. So all I have to do is once I find another one that I like, I'm gonna click on the arrow. I'm gonna check out the verbiage, check out the image, DBA is good, let's schedule it. I want that one to go out that Friday, the 12th, again, 9 a.m., Facebook and Twitter, schedule, preview, schedule, done. Guys, that took me, what, 5 minutes? And I was explaining to you how to do it. Go time block, right? 10 minutes a week, 30 minutes a month, and build out your social media content for your app going out on your business page and your Twitter account. Right now, Zainab, it's only about your app. Okay, so there are some other quick posts that they're working on. Right now, we're really focused on the consumer app, but that's what this class is really about too, right? So your quick posts that you can use to make sure that consumers are seeing your app. Guys, there is no reason why your social media channels should not have posts about your apps. When you see how quickly and easily I now have 3 posts going out this week on both Facebook and Twitter. Go take some time and do this. You saw how quick and easy that was. Now, why would I do all this? What's the point? Why am I getting them on the app? We talked about a lot of things on the consumer side. How do I see what they're doing on my side, right? That's one of the reasons we did this as well. First of all, I don't know how many of you see that little red dot. If you're a high C, it's probably been freaking you out that I haven't clicked on it the entire time I've been in. He's got a notification. Hey, he's got a notification. When's he gonna click on the notification? All right, so I'll click on it. All right, so let's click on this notification in the top right-hand corner, and what's it tell me? Remember that video tour that I requested earlier? Here's my alerts within command. And if I click on the actual text of the alert, it takes me immediately into my contact record, right? This is my consumer contact record. And you can see on the right-hand side, all of the things that I was doing, right? Including requesting the tour. You can see the property. Here's the single property page for the listing I was looking at. And then you can also see view request. If I click on that, here are the days and times that I was requesting for this actual tour and the platforms. So it's easy. Now all I have to do is go in and say, okay, great. Let me go ahead and call that person and say, hey, looks like you were looking to see this property. You had several times there. Friday morning works best for me. Do you have an iPhone? Yes, I have an iPhone. Great. Let's just use FaceTime. Do you have an iPhone? No, I've got an Android. Okay, let's use Facebook Messenger or whatever you're most comfortable using, that they're most comfortable using. You guys work it out. I'll be there at 9 o'clock. I'll send you a FaceTime call and then we can walk the house together. Okay. If it's an in-person tour, then great. And I'll see you at 9 o'clock at the house. Let me make sure I can get it scheduled through showing time and then we'll get it all set up. So in addition, what else can I see? Remember when I added myself as an agent? Remember when I created that saved search? And I can actually click on the saved search. Now I'm not going to get a ton of information yet, but I'll get some basic information. You can see that I created a search. I did it, created by the consumer. Here's the price point I listed and how many bedrooms. It's basic information, and yet in the future, as I understand it, we'll be able to get the additional details. Also, let's go all the way down, created a collection of properties. Here's the first property I added to that collection that I titled the Woodlands Homes. And then I viewed that property in the collection. I viewed it a couple of times because I was showing you a few things. Then I actually added another listing. You can see here's the new listing that got added, right? And then came through, viewed it a few more times. So you can see I've been active in those collections, looking at the properties as I was showing you how to favorite, share, hide, all the different things that we were doing. Now, you are not going to get an alert every time one of these things happens, just so you know. You're only going to get an alert when there's actually a request for a tour as of right now, as of today. So how do I know all this stuff is happening? Well, guys, go into your contacts, and this is what I would do every day I came into command so that I made sure that my lead follow-up was being purposeful. I would click on the last visited column. This is going to show me who was most recently using my stuff. Now, that's either the consumer app, which you saw us just do, but it also will let you know, right, if they're on a landing page that you emailed them. Maybe you're sending out the monthly neighborhood nurture landing page, and they actually engaged with that. That would be a last visited. Or they're actually on your site. They registered at your agent site, and they were playing on the World Wide Web with your actual site. That would also be a visit. And then I could see, okay, well, let me click. All right, what were they up to? Now, this is the other consumer, right? I have a couple different things. I was logging in as 2 different consumers. This is me actually on my agent site. And I just wanted to show that. So you can see I logged in. Now, this wasn't today. This was earlier in the week. But when I log into the agent site, you can see what that looks like. And then you can see if they're viewing listings on the agent site as well. Okay, and on the agent side, we have some additional things that we can do, and you would see some notifications there as well. So That's basically why we're using this app and why we want to make sure that they use the app. Because honestly, the guys, let's just be real, we're big brother, right? We want to see kind of what they're doing. I would take this 2 schools of thoughts. We're going to go about 5 minutes over. I hope you can stay with us. If not, again, I'll send the link out. And I would either tell them 100% that I know what they're doing, meaning that when I'm meeting with them and talking to them about the app, I can say something along the lines of, hey, the great news is you can see what I can see what you're doing on the app. So I'll know when you're liking the property, when you're creating collections, when you're saving searches. It'll help me be more informed and educated about your needs when you're actually searching for this home sale. So you let them know, hey, I'm totally peeping your stuff. I can see what you're doing. Or you play dumb and you say, hey, I was driving through the Woodlands earlier. I saw this property over near Bender's Landing that I thought might be a good fit. I remember you wanted 4 bedrooms, at least 3 bathrooms. You need a backyard. The property I think might be a good fit is at 2543 Marufa Vega Drive. And the consumer's like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. I was actually on your app this morning and I actually favorited that property. I added it to one of my collections. You're like, wow, what a coincidence. Do you want to go see it tonight or tomorrow morning? Right? So you can play dumb. What I would not do is not tell them you can see everything up front, have them start playing, and then call them and be like, hey, it looks like I can see that you're doing some stuff there on the app there. It looks like you've looked at some homes. And they're like, whoa, I didn't realize you could see that. What else can you see, right? And then they're worried like, oh, my credit card got compromised. Did you do that? You know, so I would just make sure you decide which way you're gonna go. Either tell them I can see it or play dumb, but don't go after the fact and tell them after they're already doing things. I would recommend tell them up front because I think it's a value add when working with the consumer. So guys, that's the Q2 consumer app class. We've talked about how to use the app as a consumer. How can I search for properties? By landmark, by neighborhood, by school district, right? By specific area. Then I can go in and actually do filters based upon price, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, square footage, several other filters. I can look for properties for sale or for lease. When I find an area that I like, I can actually outline it on the map so that I can save that plus my filter as a custom search that I can easily access anytime in the future. I can also create collections. And guys, one thing that we didn't talk about is you don't have to be looking to buy a house to create a collection. How many of you are looking to add a pool to the backyard, but you're not quite sure what you want? Well, couldn't you go look at properties for sale with pools and then see what they look like and be like, yep, I want it to look like this, but I want the flagstone to look like this one, but I like the rock feature of this one. I like the slide that this one has, and man, this one's got an amazing grotto. And then when you meet with your pool builder, you could pull out your phone with your collections that says amazing pools and start showing your pool builder all the different collection listings that you have saved to give them a better idea of what you want your pool to look like. Maybe I'm doing a master bathroom remodel and I want to start looking at newer homes that are for sale on the market and see what those master bathrooms look like. And I could save those listings of the ones that have great master bathrooms. Maybe it's a kitchen remodel, whatever it may be. You can see that the consumer could create collections for those other items, not just areas they're looking to actually purchase in. We then got into the guide and we talked about how the consumer is going to use your guide, how you're setting expectations for the consumer as they use your guide, how the checks can be put on each step we're going to mark off. And then we went into command and told you, all right, now that I realize I'm setting expectations, let's make sure I'm setting the right ones. How to edit the guides, how to add steps, how to mark them off, check them off under opportunities. And then we talked about the 4 different ways to share your app. I can share it manually, through the app, through social media, or using a smart plan. And then how do I know what they're doing? Go into contacts, filter by, last visited, and then start kind of peeping what they're doing and start making those calls using that purposeful lead generation so that you can sell more houses, have more listings, leave a better life, right? That's ultimately what I want you guys to be able to do. So questions, comments, concerns, ahas, if you got to go, I totally understand, but I got a few more minutes. So if anyone wants to ask any questions in the chat, feel free to, and I'd love to help you out with those. Again, I'll send this video link. I just got a new lead sent in the app now. Andy, I love it. That's exactly what we want you doing, right? Get that app in their hands so you can see what they're doing. And also, guys, so they can have a better experience. Let's not be real. Like, let's not be selfish. Let's be real. Let's not be selfish. What I didn't say that. The app experience on the KW Consumer app is a better experience, period. right? So not only is it a better experience for us as an agent being able to see what they can do, and the experience that they have with the consumer app is better than most of the experiences that they're having with the apps that they're using. So it's not only being selfish, but it's also making sure that we're looking out for the best interest of the client by putting a better performing nationwide app in their hands. Guys, as always, it's been a pleasure working with you. I will send this link out. I look forward to seeing you guys here in the future, and stay safe, stay healthy, get out there, have an amazing Red Day tomorrow, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys again real soon.
Thank you, Marty.
You're very welcome. Claudia, I will send that link by week's end to your leadership team, and they can then send it out to you guys. Y'all are all very welcome. Take care, guys. Have a great rest of the week.